Welcome back to the Ross Bolen podcast. I'm your host, Ross Bolen, here with your co-host, Jared Borislow. J-Bone, say hello to everyone. I'm sure they missed you.
J-Bone, that's what I love about Texas.
I know I missed you, you squirrely little sex kitten.
Thank you.
Over the past couple weeks, I have noticed, increasingly so for some reason, people absolutely explosive diarrhea shitting all over Instagram. And initially I noticed on Instagram and Twitter, the two social platforms that I pay the most attention to probably, do the most posting on TikTok when we have ammo. But the point is, it's gotten, like, it's built to a crescendo. And even my dad, who is not really a social media person, I would say, he's a Twitter guy, but like generally doesn't care about social media, texted me yesterday to be like, Instagram is shit. And if it gets to the point where my 65-year-old father is complaining about the platform, then something has gone horribly wrong. I don't even think he ever had a real Instagram account, my dad. He just has a burner, like Kevin Durant, so that he can get on and check out other people's shit. He's one of those guys. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't actually post anything, which is what a lot of people do with Twitter, just to make that point. But the general idea is people are fed up with Instagram desperately trying to become TikTok, which you and I have obviously been paying attention to for months and months and months. So it's a little bit weird that this is just now becoming like a mainstream topic. But I mean, you and I have also declared several times that TikTok is the only organic growth platform that exists in the social media space.
Yeah.
Or at least the only one that matters.
And obviously handing out flyers outside of a Whole Foods is probably the second biggest.
Right. At this point.
Yeah, which I do every Wednesday.
Yeah, like I have been actively losing followers on Instagram for like 2 years. And I don't know if they're bots or just like people slowly drop off, but there's no growth to be had there is the point. You and I post the exact same stuff on Instagram and TikTok to promote our shows. And as we've noted before, they don't do shit on Instagram. We've built, like, between the two of us, between Formula Bone and the Ross Bolen podcast, since we launched our TikTok accounts, we have 250,000 followers.
Yes. We would have more followers on Instagram if we stopped posting.
If we just didn't do anything at all, we'd be better off, which is, it's not good.
No. That's not what you're looking for as a content creator when you're deciding where to post.
Now, the CEO of Instagram is somebody that prior to last week I wasn't familiar with, because why pay attention to the platform that stinks like balls?
I thought it was Zuck, but now I'm sure it's just clearly some lackey whose name is not Zuck, but really it is Zuck in charge of everything.
Yeah, his name is Adam Mosseri, okay? And his actual title is head of Instagram. And this dude, okay, so...
more like dickhead of Instagram.
The dude has been tweeting tweeting a bunch of updates instead of Instagramming them, which it's just like ironic, obviously, that irony is not lost on me. But he was like basically attempting to combat this wave of hatred that has built up over the last several months by tweeting out, like, he first tweet was like about their updates to Reels, right? Which is their little short videos that they're attempting to be TikTok with. It's just TikTok. That's it. It's just, if you put TikTok inside of Instagram, built by Meta, that's what their main product on Instagram that they've been promoting and pushing for, it's got to be over a year now, right?
It's been a while.
Like, it's been a really long time.
Yeah.
This is not new that they've been making all of, like literally there was a point where it was like, doing something on our app? Why don't you make a reel? Like pushing you as hard in that direction as you can, to the point that you and I stopped putting up anything else. I haven't posted a fucking photo just for the joy of it on Instagram so my friends and family would see in a really, really, really long time, because they stopped serving those to people. So no one was seeing them. You wouldn't get likes.
But what they're doing is like, they're trying to be TikTok, but they're not willing to give you the exposure that TikTok is.
Without making you pay for it. Which is a huge part of the problem.
Well, and doesn't it seem to you, because it seems to me, like the content on Instagram, the reels that do the best are like clearly stolen, posted from like these really weird accounts that are just like content farms.
None of it is the pure version of like
creator economy.
That you would want to see. Yeah. It's all the shittiest possible internet rip-off version of everything.
Which is what Instagram did to get big in the first place, with the fat Jewish and Fuck
Very
Jerry.
true. Very true. It was the place that content, what is it called? Aggregation really began.
Well, so for example, I've had 2 of my Instagram reels ripped and posted by different accounts on Instagram, and both of those did better by a factor of 10 than anything I've ever posted.
Which would never happen on TikTok.
No,
In fact, if you posted something that already exists on TikTok, they suppress your account.
Yes.
Because they don't want repeat content.
Yes.
Whereas on Instagram, larger accounts are being rewarded for stealing the little guy like us, not necessarily little anymore, but trying to build our way up. And we're getting ripped off by people who have larger accounts, and they're getting even more exposure on our videos than we did, which is absolutely awful for the platform and extremely demotivating as a content creator. And I will upfront say that content creators and Instagram's attempt to monetize us is the main reason their platform has failed, because it stopped being about everyday users and it started being about people who could create things that would get people to spend more time on the app, right? Content creators. And so they stopped serving all the normal people shit to each other and just started serving bullshit.
Yes.
And yes, it has gotten worse over the past couple months with it seems like every other post is an ad or a promoted post that some fucking terrible content creator has paid money to Mark Zuckerberg to put into my feed. Very rarely do I give a shit about what I'm being served. So this guy, Adam Mosseri, gets on Twitter, and I'll just read you a couple of his tweets here. Again, not the head of Twitter, head of Instagram, but these are his tweets. One thing I hear a lot is people asking to see more friend content in feed. I'd love for there to be more friend content in feed, but all the growth in photos and videos from friends has been in stories and in DMs. He follows up with another tweet. We will continue to show photos and videos from friends towards the top of the feed whenever we can, which it turns out is never. But the best way to keep up with friends seems to be with the other parts of Instagram. Next tweet. That said, if you want to make sure to never miss anything from a friend, or from any account for that matter, add that account to your favorites and we will show their feed posts at the top of your feed. So, Instagram's CEO has seemingly never been presented with the argument that, in fact, people only use stories and DMs to communicate with friends and family because that's the only way that it doesn't show us a single fucking thing from our friends and families in our feeds, and it hasn't for quite some time. Like, how stupid is this dude? And I'm being serious because I'm not that smart. Right? Like I'm a moderately intelligent human being, but I don't consider myself to be one of the smartest people walking the face of the earth. Certainly not somebody who's smart enough to be put in charge of, say, one of the largest social platforms on the planet, and certainly one of the most impactful. And this dude doesn't know the like chicken or the egg argument, which came first. It's bizarre because this guy stinks at his job. He's awful. That is my main argument here, that the dude in charge of Instagram, now that I've been exposed to him even a little bit, is very clearly out of his depth. He has no fucking clue what he's doing. The fact that he is still in charge is crazy, and it's probably part of the reason that the platform has completely ceased to matter in every way, shape, or form.
Maybe this is like a generation gap thing, but like Instagram, I've always seen that as a way to keep up with friends, and TikTok, I've always seen that as like a YouTube, right? Where like if you go on it, you're there to take in content. It's like a content viewing platform where I've never seen Instagram that way. Maybe kids nowadays do. I don't know, but that's my viewpoint.
I doubt it very much. Okay, so like let me ask you this: How would you fix Instagram?
I mean, I would make it go full friends. Take the content away, but that's not where the money is for them. There's no way. I don't know if there's a realistic way to fix it.
I think there is money there.
They're stuck in limbo.
They make money when people use the app. And people would use the app if it functioned as it was supposed. Like, just that's the whole thing. Roll it back. Just roll it all back. That's how you fix it. Like, you just roll it back to the day. You know what day they could even do this? Roll it back to the exact day that they updated it to where photos showed up at an even larger box, like most of your screen, so that you could do bigger photos. Because that was the last positive improvement they made to that platform. The absolutely last one.
What if they just took away video? Like
that would help too.
when did they add video? It was like 2016.
Well, it's been
2015?
like 4 different iterations of it, remember? It was Instagram TV, IGTV. They were like, everybody do IGTV. It's going to be awesome. And we did. And then they were like, never mind, this sucks.
Pivot to video? Was that part of the pivot to video, IGTV?
That was one of the original pivots to video, but they made, I mean, there was like, you could post a video long before IGTV, I think, and then it turned into Reels because they were like, oh, look, TikTok's doing what we want to do. Let's just copy that. But it's just like, if you remember how Instagram came about, the thing was invented because people loved seeing photos of their families and friends. And Facebook used to be the place that provided that. Then Facebook jumped the shark and tried to be all about content, links, articles, serving you news. It just became a platform for whoever wanted to pay to play. But Instagram stepped in and filled that void and became the place you knew. It was pure. All you saw when you went to Instagram back in the day was pictures from your friends. That was it. I mean, and you know, maybe a couple celebrities that you followed here or there, but then it was just their pictures too. It wasn't complicated. It was easy to understand.
Dude, there used to be a caption character limit on Instagram. Because I'm reading novels. Well, I'm not reading them. I'm seeing them.
I can't remember, but people do seem to write very long.
Every influencer is like, oh, I went to Trader Joe's, and it's like a picture of a jar of pickles. Oh, Trader Joe's has new pickles. And then it's like 2,000 words about these pickles.
Yeah, and then it's hashtag spawn, hashtag ad, because it was paid for by Trader Joe's. But it was supposed to be where we could see photos of our families and friends in a clean and easy to use feed. And it is so far away from that description now because basically Meta, formerly known as Facebook, operates like this. It's like if we went to the comedy podcast charts right now, just checked to see what was the number one show in the world, listened to an episode, and then we copied that show exactly. Like tried to make this show exactly like that show. The pacing, the humor, the style, all of it, just straight up ripped it. We just make it into What the Fuck with Mark Maron. This show becomes exactly that show. And that's their strategy. That's Meta's strategy. They never focused on their own product. They look around to see what else is working and they either buy it, like they did with Instagram, or they copy it, like they have with Reels inside of Instagram, which also, there's a version of that like on Facebook. I don't know if it's called Reels.
Yeah.
It's also Reels. And a lot of Instagram like automatically posts to your Facebook if you have it connected, and it's just like, why do these two things exist? Nothing about the setup of that company makes any fucking sense anymore.
That's why they're trying to become the metaverse company. They're like, I think they realize they botched social media. Like nobody our age sees that as like the peak like we used to back when we were younger.
It's a mess. And that's their entire strategy. So if they're losing, like no problem. Just copy the competitor you envy the most. Which is obviously like very on the nose a shitty strategy. Just a terrible way to do business. And they've been doing it for years and years and years with almost no success, which is the part where I'm so confused about why they've continued to operate that way. But like, it's been so long since I was excited to get on that app for any reason, right? Like even when we, like every once in a while we'll have a video like pop off on there. Who knows why they choose one to finally do well out of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds we've put up. But even when that happens, and I'll pick up like 100 followers or something, it's nothing compared to if you have a video pop off on TikTok, you're talking about picking up thousands and thousands of people, thousands of followers, potentially off of one good video. And there's just no potential for that.
There's also
on the gram.
A culture on TikTok. There's a follow culture on TikTok, I would say.
Right, where if you find an account that posted something that you really like, you are sort of programmed to follow that account. Add this to your list of accounts you follow. That's not a thing anywhere else anymore. It's not a thing on Twitter. It's not a thing on Instagram. I don't know how they lost that.
YouTube, it is a thing.
YouTube culture is different though. Yeah. It's a little bit more like TikTok, like you said.
Like, yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's like the platforms. And again, we're thinking about this from the lens of a content creator, right? Like if I was just if I didn't create content, I wouldn't be looking at either of these platforms in the same light as I do. But TikTok is to me a content like consumption platform. Do people like interact with their friends on there?
Not really. I think it's way like that is TikTok is almost not at all about friends and
Except
family.
in the stories and DMs.
Like you said, like you don't follow all your friends and family on YouTube, right? Because it's a content consumption platform. Same thing on TikTok, which is why it makes no sense for Instagram to attempt to replicate their strategy when it doesn't align with the whole origin of their platform in the first place. Like I'm on Instagram right now.
They're forcing it.
My first post is a Six Flags Fiesta Texas sponsored post. Next, House of Highlights. Next, a sponsored content post from an account, a promoted post from an account that I do not follow. Then it's like Sneaker Politics, a joke meme account, another meme account, Trash Can Paul, Blue Moon Brew Company, sponsored beer post.
Oh, notably,
I don't even drink.
Yeah, notably you're sober.
Come on, how is that relevant to me? A depression account I follow, straight into another promoted post, straight into Maxo Cream, who's a celebrity. Straight into a comedian I follow, straight into an Airbnb sponsored post. There is nothing here. It's just garbage.
It's like if you took...
I know those accounts exist, Jared. I'm going to go check them for their fucking content. I don't need that shit served to me at the top of my feed.
Add your friends to your favorites, Ross. That's what they tell you.
I cannot believe that's the solution. You go fix it. Fix your own feed, dumbass. Why would we do it for you? It's like, no, you don't get it, dickbag. Just roll it back. It's so simple, the fix to this.
The Instagram feed is now, it's like watching the Super Bowl commercials. That's like what it is. It's celebrities and it's ads. It is Super Bowl commercials.
Just pumping crypto down your throat. No, you're not wrong. And back in the day, I would even say there's been like this slide on Super Bowl commercials where they used to be a lot more creative and interesting and it was a huge part of watching the Super Bowl. Now we still tune in like that. But like what? One memorable commercial a year maybe? Like the Super Bowl commercials are not what they used to be for me. So because like you said, it has become too big budget, it's become too commercialized, it's become too, no pun intended, it's become too like, I don't know, just the lamest possible version of what it once was, right? But in the case of Instagram, it's really, really frustrating. I don't know how long it would take me to scroll before I got a post from somebody that's not a content creator or a brand. Or a celebrity. I don't think it's ever going to happen. So I'm just going to stop. This is ridiculous. It's like I just got a Pfizer ad before I got to a friend. So I don't know how these people are shocked. I don't know how the Instagram guys are surprised. I don't know how Zuckerberg didn't see this coming miles and miles and miles away. Because for you and I, again, content professionals, people who pay attention to the space, we rely upon social media for marketing. And it's just if you're listening and you're unclear on the relationship, it's supposed to be a pretty even give and take. We provide your platform with content. That content keeps people on your platform. You get me more followers, I get you more views, and you make more advertising money. Like that's supposed to be the exchange. Following in exchange for content. If you're a content creator on Instagram. Now for everybody else, if you're a normal human being, here's supposed to be the exchange. You get to see the shit you want, and they make money.
And they get your data as well.
Yeah, but that's like... What? What are they going to do with that? They know you shop at Target. Who the fuck cares? How is that valuable?
Well, I think then they add you to the audiences that they sell to the companies. Like, oh, look, this person...
But this is how we know this isn't working. I just got a Blue Moon ad in my personal feed. Like, what the fuck? If they have all this data on me, they know I don't fucking drink. What are they trying to get me to slide back into drinking heavily?
That would be a commercial thing for them to do.
That would be the most commercial thing. They're enabling me. That's what Zuckerberg is doing now. He's enabling addicts to try to derail them from their lives. But yeah, I mean, it's look. I have watched a lot of silliness unfold on the internet. I mean, a lot of it at the hand of Mark Zuckerberg. But just in general, I don't expect the best decision making from these companies anymore, from these platforms, from TikTok even. I don't. Long term, I don't. But this is like if you did the worst possible job, almost intentionally, like self-destructing your whole business model to the point that people don't even know why they're there. And on top of all this, just the stuff we just covered, the way of the world in 2022, as we have touched on time and again, is mostly disturbing. The news, the mainstream media, all the stuff that you get served on the internet, on Twitter, on Instagram. So on top of not getting what you want, you're being made to be as depressed and unhappy as humanly possible. With the worst fucking news, just inundated with shittiness every day, all day. How do you look at those two things, all the shitty strategy stuff, and then on top of that, all the depressing, horrible news that they're shoving down your throat, and go, yeah, this is it. We're killing it. This is exactly what they want.
It's like the idea that maybe the next thing you scroll to will make you feel better about how bad the app made you feel in the first place.
Oh, man, it's tough. And then on the other hand, there's TikTok, which is a, garbage pit of crack cocaine of content.
And softcore porn as well.
Yeah, but still, I spend 5 minutes on there. At least I'm learning something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's always something educational there. And it's not related to the worst possible news of the day.
Yeah.
Ever.
It is so much more lighthearted, for sure.
It is. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, man. I mean, to me, I've seen all these people tweeting, even putting in their Instagram stories, like ways they could fix Instagram. Just stop. They're not going to. And the faster we let this thing full on die with what? Vine and what other platforms have
Peach.
come and gone? Peach, notoriously.
That was around for like a week.
That was one of the shorter lived social platforms, but funny to you and I in the profession.
Parler, True Social.
There have been a lot. But just let it die. Let it go to the social media graveyard with all the rest, and something else will fill the gap. I'm kind of
MySpace. I don't know why you didn't say that.
Yeah, MySpace is the all-time classic, but I don't know how nobody's done it already, honestly. Like, I don't know how somebody hasn't stepped up and filled the void of Instagram what it used to be, right? Because I do feel less updated on my friends and family's lives than I used to.
There is that one we talked about where you have like a minute to take a picture of yourself when it gives you the notification.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept, but
that's all friends. So.
It's still it's got to be something that's easy enough to understand to break through. Like the problem is that most people aren't good at content, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons Instagram initially went in the direction they did, because they were like, "Oh, this is shit." Somebody just put up a picture of their hot dog. Why would we serve that over, this ad or whatever? And I get that, but you fucked up. You went too far. You got to roll it back really hard if you want to have any chance of saving that thing. It's just a mess in there, man. It's so bad that the olds are upset with it. The olds don't even know what the fuck is happening on there. I don't even know what's happening on there.
You're an old.
I'm also curious to see, like, over the past 10 years, what their age demo in terms of audience, like, how badly has it skewed into just people between 28 and 48? I bet that's the biggest chunk of their audience. There's no way they have kids on there. The children cannot possibly be on the gram. TikTok is theirs. It's right there for them. Why the fuck would they be here with us? We had no choice. We were already here. Because back in the day, they looped us in when it was good. But now, it's just trash. If we were going to do a trash or not trash on Instagram, it would be trash, 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 trash. The purest trash that's ever existed. It's fucking awful. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, I'm genuinely of the opinion that there is no coming back from this. I do not think they can do what I'm saying and roll it back to the last good day they had.
No. Once they decide to copy another company, I feel like Zuckerberg put out an initiative. It's like, we can never admit defeat.
It's not only that you can't admit defeat, their entire monetization strategy is built around Reels. So now they can't walk away.
Yeah.
Because what are they going to do? Tell other advertisers they're canceling, then their stock plummets, and this is the problem with being more beholden to your stockholders and money than the actual quality of your product itself, which is it's a thing that happens over and over in America. It's just, this is the worst version of it that I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, Instagram was always about making yourself, not famous, but making yourself and your life known to your friends. TikTok has always been about making yourself and your life potentially known to millions of people.
Right.
And that's the biggest difference. And then
no, definitely.
Instagram decided we're going to not be our true selves, and it's not going well.
No, it is not. It is not. I miss it. I miss the dumbass photos of people's plates of food and their dogs.
Yeah.
Those were the days. We didn't know those were the days, but those were the days.
All we get now are the hits. We just get proposals and weddings.
Yeah, unless somebody shits out a baby or has their second marriage, I'm not seeing you on my feed. It's not happening. It's literally got to be a life-changing event that my friend posts about or family member posts about to make it anywhere near the top of my feed.
Yep.
Other than that, it's just ads and ads and ads and weird, shitty content that was probably posted on TikTok 2 weeks ago. So Rest in peace to Instagram. Today's episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Some days you just get your ass kicked out there, and there's no better refrain from the beatings life throws your ass's way than to make sure your ass is covered by only the finest undies available to woman or man. MeUndies is here to help you take a break from the hardships of the world and give yourself a soft summer. When you're cocooned in the softest and most breathable undies, loungewear, and swimwear known to humanity, all your other problems will simply melt away. I've been wearing MeUndies for a long time, since back when they initially became a sponsor of the show years ago. I'm wearing a brand new pair right now. There's nothing like them. Super excited to have them on board as a sponsor again because the comfort of these undies is unmatched. The loungewear and swimwear are phenomenal too. They're the best, Jerry. The best. The RBP gang deserves to enjoy the finest things in life like the comfort of MeUndies. And let's face it, summer is sweaty, but your butt doesn't have to be. With MeUndies light and breathable micromodal fabric, you can stay comfy and cool all summer long. They got super fun seasonal prints, tons of styles to choose from in sizes extra small through 4XL, so you can bring the beach to your butt without ever leaving your living room. But if you do dare to brave the heat and venture to the pool or beach, check out their new and improved swimwear styles. They're soft, stretchy, sustainably made. I've got a new neighborhood pool that I wore my MeUndies swimsuit to yesterday. It was amazing. Love it. MeUndies has a great offer for the RBP gang. For any first-time purchasers, you get 15% off. If you sign up for their free-to-join membership, you can apply that 15% off to their already discounted membership prices, by the way. So, to get 15% off, support the show. And it's got to be your first order, by the way. 100% satisfaction guarantee. Go to MeUndies.com/RBP. 15% off your first order at MeUndies, MEUNDIES.com/RBP. So, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, future president of the United States, and Kevin Hart, you may have noticed, are doing a ton of promo. Well, you may have noticed on Instagram, where every fourth post right now for me is Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson promoting their new movie, which is it's an animated film called DC League of Super Pets, and they did voices for it, I'm assuming.
Yeah. They've done a lot of movies together.
5 at this point.
I only know Central Intelligence is the only one I've seen. No, there's another one, but that's the only one I remember.
That was the first one, 2016. So they've had a 6-year run here, and they've done 5 movies together in that time. And the reason why is because they've been incredibly successful with these films. So Central Intelligence was a $50 million budget. They made $216 million worldwide, all right? And those numbers have probably been updated to be even larger. And then the year after Central Intelligence came out, they reunited for Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, which is obviously a reboot of a classic movie from when I was a kid, Jumanji starring Robin Williams, which was amazing and still is. That one made more than $960 million. And then they had a sequel to that, 2019's Jumanji: The Next Level. Yeah.
The first Jumanji, or I should say
I'm going to assume it's over $1 billion now. Yeah.
That's absurd.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking crazy. So then they made the sequel to that in 2019, the next Jumanji, and then they also, The Rock did Hobbs and Shaw, that Fast and the Furious spinoff. He fucking forced his way into the Fast and the Furious franchise and then made his own spinoff and pissed off all the other actors that were already in Fast and the Furious, which is just hilarious to me. And he gave Kevin Hart a cameo in that movie as well. And then now DC League of Super Pets is their 5th movie together. So they've definitely grossed over $1 billion together. It makes sense, I mean, for their movies, not
do you
for
think
them specifically.
They're a good comedy duo?
I think they are a good comedy couple for making money.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that's interesting to me is I've watched them doing all these promo interviews together, and I guess what they figured out is, like, we really crush these together. Because they do, I mean, it's pretty nonstop that you see Kevin Hart sitting next to The Rock, being interviewed by someone, and then most of the interview is them taking, like, pretty below the belt shots at each other. Like, one of the videos that I saw recently that's been going viral, and then they put a bunch of promotional money behind it on Instagram, so it's been served to me 27, like, I've seen it over and over and over, is The Rock telling a story that he just bought his mom a house. And Kevin Hart is like, about fucking time. $1 billion later, you buy your mom her first house? He goes, I bought my mom her first house when I got my first check. And so that's like a kind of a personal shot at him, right? Like, you didn't even buy your mom a house until now. Now The Rock obviously goes on to explain, like, no, I've been lucky enough to buy my mom several houses over the years, but this might be her last one, so it's a big deal. All the while, Kevin Hart is still going off on the side, ripping on The Rock. And that's pretty much how all their interviews go. They make fun of each other, and then they get more and more personal, and somewhere along the way, I think these two started to despise each other. And you see this shit happen. Like, one of the most classic examples is Lucille and Desi Ball, right? or whatever her husband. Desi Arnaz. I'm just going to call him Desi Ball because he should have taken her last name. But those two had an incredible amount of success together. But Lucy was like the star, right? And Desi was the production guy. And then eventually, he didn't like that. Like, he didn't like that, like, his wife was the power in the couple. And it fucked their relationship up and destroyed it. And, like, there's just a million examples like that over the course of the history of entertainment where two people have a ton of success together, and then behind the scenes, they don't even really like each other that much. And the more I see The Rock and Kevin Hart, the more I'm like, holy shit, this inevitably one of them is going to kill the other. Because there's too much money, and they can't stop now. They can't walk away. They can't quit. And it's fucking weird to me. But, like, also, individually, I don't really like either one of these guys. Like, I'm not a Kevin Hart guy.
Not a Rock guy?
I'm saying, okay, let me rephrase that. I'm not really a fan of either of these dudes as, like, people. I don't really know much about The Rock outside of his business pursuits and shit and movies and all he does in the entertainment space. But, like, I can't tell you the last time he put out a movie that I was like, ooh, The Rock crushed this one, or The Rock made this just for me. This is right up my alley. Same thing with Kevin Hart. Like, he doesn't do anything that's really aimed at me, I don't think. And together, watching them rip each other is kind of fun. So I get it strategically. I'm a little worried that they might choke each other to death, but they actually hate each other.
They might just be, like, really good friends who have decided that they don't give a fuck anymore, and they're just going to roast each other off the face of the earth for fun.
And I respect that. It's just like, I know Kevin Hart is a comedian, right? Like, have you ever watched his stand-up?
Maybe once.
I've seen a couple. I mean, it's not really my fave.
He's one of those guys who I think his stage presence carries a lot of his, like, comedy. Because he obviously is he's got good voices, great facial expressions, very charismatic.
Yeah.
He's great presence, and I think that probably covers up for a little bit of the other inadequacies.
Yeah, that's fair.
I also think it's funny, The Rock is, what, like 6'5", 6'6", and Kevin Hart's...
Look, that's obviously...
It's like a very big, like,
it's a
difference.
pinky in the brain type of thing. Like, it's obviously very funny. Their size differences play a huge part in why their relationship works so well.
Pinky in the brain.
It's also just kind of hilarious that I don't think they have to put very much money behind their movies in terms of marketing, because their whole strategy is like, we just sit you two fuckers on a stool, and then we have somebody interview you, and you go at it, and then we post clips from that everywhere, which, again, from, like, an economic... perspective, that's an incredible strategy. It's a great move.
I mean, it seems like the budget for Central Intelligence was $50 million. Like, that's not a lot for a blockbuster film.
With those two in it, hell no, it isn't a lot. But that was only the starting point for their little relationship, which is now just completely out of control. So we'll see where things go from here. But I have concerns about Kevin Hart and The Rock's seemingly lovey-dovey friendship that it may end in murder. Today's episode is also brought to you by MyBookie, our sportsbook and online casino sponsor here at the Ross Bolen podcast. Listen, bettors don't let other bettors take hot action alone. So grab a few cold ones, call up your best buds, and get ready for some action this weekend. Place some bets, take your shirts off, maybe even kiss a little. This is probably what I would call the dry season in the world of sports. Baseball, however, heating up massively. The trade deadline is Tuesday afternoon. Teams are trading left and right. Juan Soto just ended up in San Diego on the Padres. It's chaos, and betting on baseball has become my go-to move in this dry season every year, where we don't have NBA and we don't have NFL, the two things I really like to focus on. So my pursuits turn to the old baseball and Major League Baseball, which is perfectly fine if you're on MyBookie, because they have every single bet you could possibly imagine, every single prop bet, every single future. It's amazing. And when you join the MyBookie community right now, you get an instant deposit bonus. You just use the promo code RBP to support the show, and you'll get a deposit bonus up to $1,000 when you go. Houston Astros, my team, obviously currently doing quite well, leading the AL West with a 67-37 record, chasing the New York Yankees for the best record in the league. I am obviously riding them on MyBookie pretty much every game at this point. It's like, this is the most fun time to bet as a sports fan. When one of your teams is actually really good, good, and you don't have to put a whole lot of thought behind it. You just throw a little money behind them on each game, and then each game is even more fun to watch. And really, if you've never been a sports bettor, that would be my sales pitch. Watching sports, fun. Watching sports when you have money on them to make you feel like you're actually somehow part of the team, even fucking more fun. And that's always been my reasoning anyway, as I've thoroughly enjoyed sports betting for many years now. But don't forget to use the code RBP on MyBookie.ag to bet with us in the MyBookie community and support the show. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie, code RBP to support the show and unlock that deposit bonus. All the MMA and UFC, and I believe there's some soccer right now. Right? Soccer?
The Women's World Cup, I believe, just ended.
What better thing to bet on, Jared, than the Women's World Cup back when it was on?
Yep. They just played the Community Shield match, but I don't think there's any other. Maybe MLS?
There's golf.
MLS.
I know that.
There's MLS.
MLS and golf. You can also bet golf. PGA, LIV, who gives a shit? MyBookie.ag, code RBP. Get that deposit bonus. Throw down your sports bets and support the show at the same time. I've got an insane headline of the day for you here.
Mm-hmm.
$30 million survivalist compound hits market in New Mexico.
I don't know what that means.
It's a gigantic mansion, compound, home built specifically for the purpose of you being able to survive like a nuclear apocalypse or any type of fallout.
Okay.
So let me read you a little bit about it. It's crazy. This is the beginning of this article says, in the market for 85 yaks, like the animal, a seller in New Mexico has the perfect place for you. It's a 312-acre ranch in New Mexico that comes with its own yak herd, and it hit the market recently for $30 million, according to the Wall Street Journal. The owner is Howard Mintz, a retired real estate developer who also ran a seismic construction company in San Francisco. He spent more than 20 years designing and building this home to be entirely self-sufficient. It's built of reinforced concrete. It has its own solar energy system, multiple backup generators, a year's worth of propane, and its own water supply.
This is like a powder keg.
Yeah.
What the heck?
These yaks apparently just roam the land, which includes a large barn, a horse facility with an area for indoor riding, a hay shed, a koi pond, and a guest house.
Is it designed so that at some point, if it comes down to it, you have to eat the koi?
I think so. Mintz said to the Wall Street Journal, if all hell breaks loose, you can come here and you'll be okay. In what sense of the word he means okay, I'm not sure, but the main house spans 4,000 square feet, so it's pretty fucking big, and it's only 85% complete, which is an interesting time to put it on the market. You can't go for that final 15% there, huh? Just had to get that money, huh? This dude has spent tens of millions of dollars on construction and about $1 million on tools and equipment, so maybe he's just getting like burned out and he wants somebody else to come finish the project. But he even flew in contractors from Europe to install roof cladding made of zinc. But he had issues with contractors staying. He says he's fired over 80 people while they've been working on this project, noting that eventually he found some talented local workers, some of whom have now been with him for more than 2 decades as he's worked on this thing. It says this is New Mexico and things are pretty loose. The fuck does that mean?
I know, I've heard about that.
What, they've got weird labor laws?
No, there's certain areas of New Mexico that are just like lawless.
There's just nobody out there.
No, people live there. It's like a lot of like people just like towed a trailer there and have just been living there, and there's nobody there to kick them off. It's just like
there's no real organization
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
like there's not like a government or like anything. It's just like it's like public land.
Very little regulation.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
assuming. Yeah, so this compound is the most expensive residential property for sale in New Mexico. It's topping a ranch formerly owned by sex offender and financier Jeffrey Epstein. That was first listed for $27.5 million, according to the Wall Street Journal, which cited Zillow. Epstein's estate recently cut the price of the property to $21.5 million, so they dropped $6 million off there. I don't know what it would. I mean, that it makes sense that you'd have to drop that price, but still, who the fuck is buying that? You'd have to be a very, very unknown wealthy person, which I don't think that many of those exist, to the point where you could spend $20 million on a mansion that was owned by Jeffrey Epstein. Like, I get buying Mike Tyson's old house like 50 Cent did, but who the fuck would do this?
Just demolish it. Nobody wants to buy that.
the juju is too strong. Those are bad vibes. You know how when you go like searching for a new apartment or a new house, one of the things you feel out when you go in there is the vibes. Like I've walked into a house and been like, nah, something fucked up happened here and I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, the Jeffrey Epstein house.
You don't want to be there.
Just donate it to like a...
Turn it into a library.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Make that a public, something serving the public, right? Like, it's probably off in some desolate area, but kind of the point. Just bomb it. Somebody bomb it. Nobody needs to buy that. 20 million, bro. That money could go to something helpful.
Not buying Jeffrey Epstein's house.
Turn it into a school or a fucking rehab facility for people who have been trafficked or abused. I don't know. Do something other than just sell it for 20 million. If I had 20 million to blow, that's what it needs to be. Somebody who's wealthy enough to do so needs to pay the 20 million and burn it to the ground and piss on the ashes. Like Shooter McGavin and Happy Gilmore. Okay, but here's the one catch for this other home. Let's get away from Epstein. Back to this New Mexico survival compound. You get 85 yak.
Is that the plural?
Yes.
The plural is not yaks. It's just yak.
85 yak. It's what's the other one? It's like moose. There's one moose. There's 85 moose. Yeah. Not meese.
Okay.
Right? And the yak are tight. Have you ever seen a yak? You know what a yak looks like? It's like a buffalo mixed with Cousin It from whatever that show was.
The Addams Family?
Yeah, the Addams Family. Super fucking hairy buffalo.
And they got the horns, right?
And they got horns, yeah. So a longhorn mixed with a buffalo mixed with Cousin It, and you've got a yak, and you get 85 of those. The pictures of them are quite enticing.
What do you do with them?
That's the question. Again, Jared, I have to assume they're for eating.
It's got to be extremely expensive to keep 85 yak.
Well, that's why you get the hay barn with your purchase. In all of this, I mean, that's the one really funny part about purchasing the survivalist compound for $30 million is that you're like stoked on the yak, you're stoked on the koi fish, you're stoked on the hay. All of that is food for you when shit hits the fan.
The hay?
The hay comes last. Obviously the least appetizing. But
I don't think there's anything nutritious about hay.
Push comes to shove, dude. You've got to get that hay down.
It's like saying, "Oh, there's grass in the front yard." That's the last.
I think it is. You're telling me you wouldn't try to eat grass if you were starving? My dogs do it sometimes. They're not even starving.
Every time I've seen a dog eat grass, they puke.
That happens a lot. Happens a lot. I've got at least 2 of the 3 that eat fucking grass for fun.
Right. Look at Bella's face.
Bella's passed out with her tongue hanging out the front of her mouth. Speaking of dogs. 85 yak. It does seem like an overwhelming amount of yak. Like if you woke up and the 85 yak were all standing in the front yard staring at the house, you'd be like, like the birds, but with yak.
They're standing in a line looking at you.
Yak. Yak. Yeah, I don't know about all this. People who blow this type of money on homes are crazy to me, bro. Unless it's Drake's house, 30 million?
It's also not even done. Let's remember that.
And it's 85% done? That's just no way to sell a property. As somebody who's currently trying to sell a house, you cannot be 85% done.
Hey, I've been building this for years. I've fired 80 different people, and you have to finish it. So it's clearly a difficult project.
Very. Who knows what that last 15% is, dude? What if it's the electricity that they didn't do?
It's the foundation. They built that last.
Yeah, the foundation does come last in this case. But the hay shed, man, a horse facility, the 85 yak, and no Jeffrey Epstein crimes committed on this property to our knowledge, which is the biggest selling point for me. Today's episode is also brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs have completely changed the game. Bird Dogs shorts, pants, and joggers are made from the finest high-quality material. They all come with built-in liner that cradles your stovepipe for all-day comfort. Who the fuck likes being uncomfortable? It is hot as shit outside. And if you're wearing shorts that don't breathe or pants that don't breathe and don't support your nads with a pair of built-in underwear that don't make you feel sexier than Pamela Anderson running down the beach in slow motion in Baywatch, then what the hell are you doing, friend? It's time to upgrade to the shorts and pants of the future. Your balls will thank you. And because you listen to the Ross Bolen podcast, Bird Dogs is throwing in a free gift with your order. When you go to birddogs.com, you use the code Ross. You get yourself a free gift with your pair of Bird Dogs, shorts, joggers, what have you. Code Ross, birddogs.com. It might be a dad hat. It might be nunchucks. It might be a football. It might be at one point it was like a cool little video game, Bird Dogs video game they
There
had
was
made.
rubber lawn cleats.
You never know what it's going to be. You go to birddogs.com, you get yourself a pair of the most comfortable pants or shorts in the world with the built-in liner that you know and love, and you'll get yourself a free gift. You will not take these things off, I promise you. Go today to birddogs.com, promo code Ross to support the podcast. And I'm telling you now, as I start my transition into dad life, Bird Dogs have been a huge part of that so far. I'm mowing lawns. I'm opening boxes and moving heavy shit all day at the new house, trying to get it organized. And the Bird Dogs we haven't had very good AC so far, I'll say that. One of the negatives about the new crib is that there's been people coming in and out doing construction. So every night at like 7, I check the fucking thermostat and it's 80 degrees. And I have to wait for it to get down to like 75 before I can fall asleep. So I sleep in my Bird Dogs with no shirt to be nice and cool. And I'm not joking. My favorite thing about Bird Dogs is that you can literally wear them to do anything. From the joggers that look great and feel great, so you could wear them out to dinner or to the bar if you wanted to the shorts that I literally will go to sleep in, wake up, go work out, play basketball, and then jump in the pool, because you can do all those things wearing the same pair of shorts. And as they say, they dry faster than a bathing suit. Birddogs.com, code Ross, for that free Bird Dogs gift with your pair of Bird Dogs. Go today. So let's talk a little entertainment. First and foremost, initial reviews, as they're being described, have come out regarding HBO's first Game of Thrones spinoff to hit our screens, titled House of the Dragon. Right, it's a few hundred years before Game of Thrones, focuses on the Targaryen dynasty and a bunch of infighting that occurs there. But first off, I'm going in as blind as I can for this, Jared. There is source material. There's a book called Fire and Blood. There's some other stuff. I own the book, haven't opened it. Don't care to, never will. Because after Game of Thrones' first season, I read all 6 of those fucking books from Song of Ice and Fire. And it was a mistake. I spoiled a lot of the next 6, 7 seasons for myself because I knew what was coming.
Would you say you spoiled it, or was the reveal when reading the book better than the reveal? I can't imagine the Red Wedding would have been as good. Red.
In the book. Yeah, I mean, look, the books are good, but they're quite a chore. Like, they're very, very long, and George R. R. Martin's style of writing is extremely detail oriented.
Would he like go for 5 pages explaining like what the facade of one building looks like or something?
Yeah, like he'd spend 6.5 paragraphs on one coat of armor, like telling you how it shimmers in the light, and you're just like, God damn, dude, move on. But really, it was like, because Game of Thrones was such an enjoyable TV show to watch until that final season where things really derailed and spoiled it for a lot of us. I have forgiven them, by the way, and moved on from that, and I just accept the first like 6 seasons as my show. It wasn't fun. It wasn't as much fun for me as it would have been had I not read all the books. I could have read the books after, right? And enjoyed them just as thoroughly, if not appreciated them even more, because they didn't derail in the way that the show did, because the book for the final 2 books of that series do not, in fact, exist. And they never will, because George R. R. Martin has completely given up, if you haven't noticed. At least on those books. He's making far too much money doing all this other shit. Why the fuck would you go back and write those books? It seems like they'd be really difficult. So, House of the Dragon airs on August 21st. Later this month, the first episode will premiere on HBO Max, and the initial reviews are out, which I have to assume means that the people they sent screener copies to, that have gotten to watch the show already, that are critics, that are supposed to be able to review it. Now, the fact that it's being reported that initial reviews are glowing, that some people have called it better than Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones
Combined?
Why those 2 shows? Like,
I think those are 2 shows seen as like the pinnacle of television.
They are in a lot of ways, but I think way more so than Game of Thrones in terms of the mainstream television audience. Breaking Bad they didn't stumble and trip and fall on their faces and then diarrhea all over the floor in their final season. That was a fine ending. So I don't feel like I saw a lot of Breaking Bad fans being like, fuck you. Don't lump us in with these assholes. That's not even a fair 2 shows to throw out as the all-time greats. So I kind of agree with that argument, but also, look, you can't describe something as better than its predecessor when it isn't even out yet. You just can't. That's not really a fair thing to do. The reviews, do they have me excited? Yes.
I'm going to say right now, Ross, your child is going to be better than you.
It's like good chance on that one probably. But like also with this one, it's not saying much because I don't think that many people hold Game of Thrones in as high as regard as these people who said it was as good a Game of Thrones or better than Game of Thrones seem to think. Like it was, I pay close attention to the Game of Thrones fans. People were hurt, pissed off, upset, and I get it. But I would also say this. I've watched the trailer. I've discussed it. I've watched the teasers. And I am so confident. What I said last week is this. I had given up on Westworld. One of the greatest seasons in the history of TV, Westworld Season 1. Season 2 was like, Season 3 was a full-blown bed-shitting Game of Thrones style. And then they have revived that show entirely. Jared and I have been enjoying the shit out of Season 4 and covering every episode on Freeze All Motor Functions, our Westworld podcast. And I was terrified going into this season. I was like, I can't believe we're doing this again. I can't believe we have to do the podcast. God, this show stinks now. It's amazing again. It's as good as it was for me in Season 1. If Westworld can turn that fucking freight train that was on fire, turn that shit around, why in the hell would I not trust HBO to crush the first Game of Thrones spinoff? Do you have any idea how much money is on the line here?
A lot.
To take it back to the beginning of the episode where all Meta cares about is money? Well, then make quality. That's how you get more money.
I mean, all of the rest of the spinoffs essentially rely on this one.
If this one tanks, they're fucked.
Yeah.
You think anybody's watching the Jon Snow spinoff if this one bombs? I don't think so.
What about isn't there the ship one with the octopus family?
Are you talking about Macy Williams' character?
No, the Greyjoy.
I have no idea.
Wasn't there it's called like 1,000 ships or something?
I think that one got canned.
Wait, really?
There was at least one or two that they've already made. They made like a pilot for one and then they canceled it.
The sea snake.
Maybe. I don't know. I can't remember.
That's what it's called.
But look, they have an opportunity to do a whole bunch of shit with this franchise. It even says, like when you look at the title, House of the Dragon, right above that, you know what it says? Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. So the Game of Thrones brand depends entirely on House of the Dragon Season 1, not the series. People aren't going to wait 3 seasons to see if it pays off. This is it. And if you think HBO would drop that kind of bag, you haven't been watching HBO very long. I'd say I'm 95% certain that we are in for a treat. That's my point here.
And when you watch House of the Dragon, there's a little bit of a companion podcast.
There is. Similarly to the way that we're doing a companion podcast for Westworld, and which, by the way, if you're one of the fans who dropped off, I'm not lying to you. I have no reason to lie to you. At all.
You told the truth last season when you said
last season I roasted the fuck out of that show live on our podcast, and it was awkward. And I am so happy I don't have to do that again. But yeah, go back to Westworld. People keep asking me, is it really worth it? Are you serious? Yeah, bro. If you loved Season 1, you're gonna feel stupid if you don't go back now because they have fully recaptured the vibes. But when House of the Dragon airs August 21st, Barrett and I, my co-host on Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, will be coming straight to the podcast studio and recording our recap and reaction show, which will then go out everywhere. So if you loved Oysters, Clams, and Cockles during Game of Thrones, it was the #1 Game of Thrones podcast in the world. We had a blast doing it. One of the biggest things I've ever done in my career in terms of listenership. We were doing like 150,000 downloads every episode that last season. You will love Oysters, Clams, and Cockles for House of the Dragon. And if they do blow it, which I'd say 5% chance, 95% sure we're good. If they do blow it, it will be worth it just to hear me freak the fuck out every week and roast the show. So when House of the Dragon drops August 21st, make sure you are subscribed or you follow Oysters, Clams, and Cockles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever your preferred method of podcast consumption lies. And look, don't pay too much attention to initial reviews. As I said, I'm going in blind. I'm not even reading the reviews. I just saw the headlines and was like, that's absurd to make Breaking Bad and House of the Dragon. What a crazy claim. But yeah, because of my experience with Game of Thrones, I'm not reading. I'm not watching interviews with the showrunners. I don't care that you have and you know the answers. I'm going in blind. It's the most enjoyable way to do it. And speaking of entertainment, I watched the movie Everything Everywhere All the Time last night. It's been suggested to me for the last several weeks. It obviously has gotten a lot of attention. And this is, here's all I'll say. One of the most overwhelming films I have ever watched in my life in terms of like emotionally and visually being stimulated. I was so stimulated, dude. So stimulated.
Isn't this a Bo Burnham lyric? Everything and everywhere, all of the time.
It is. The movie's like whole concept is almost built around that same kind of thing, though. Just too much. Beautiful movie, though. Beautiful story. Great, like, human lessons in it, I would say. It's just like the gist of it is that you need to probably appreciate your life a little more. And I loved it, man. I highly recommend Everything Everywhere All the Time, the movie, not the internet. The internet I don't necessarily recommend unless you're using it to listen to the podcast. J-Bone, you got a flight later today. We were talking about you're wearing pants.
Yeah, I have gotten to the point, and I think it came with like hitting the age of 25. Because I used to wear shorts on planes. Used to do it.
I did too. And then at some point I realized none of the adults had shorts on.
No, and I was like, what do they know?
Yeah.
And what they know is that more often than not, the plane is too cold.
Yes. And there's nothing worse than being stuck somewhere. Everybody who's been to jail can testify to this, where it's too cold and you don't have the proper attire. And there's nothing you can do about it, right? It's unbearable. There's being on an airplane for more than a couple hours, freezing your dick off, having to ask for a blanket, which I'm quite sure they don't even have anymore.
They used to. They used to have the
destroyed that.
shitty little pillow and that terrible pillow. It's not even worth it.
It's kind of comical when you'd be like, "Can I get a blanket and a pillow?" And they'd bring you a pillow the size of a shoe.
Yeah.
And a blanket that was like a horse blanket for a horse, like a scratchy, smallpox covered blanket. It was disgusting. So I'm pretty sure that COVID was the nail in the coffin for those god-awful pillows and blankets that they used to give us on planes.
Yeah.
So to your point, yeah, now you better show up. Like, there is a very specific attire I'm wearing on an airplane. I need to be comfortable, and I need to be warm enough to be comfortable. That's a big part of it. Because if you're sitting next to some asshole who's blasting the air, it's going to be even colder for you. The other piece of the pants puzzle for me, though, I feel more protected. Like, that's a lot of human beings in one giant fart box in the sky. And the less of my skin that's exposed to the seat, to the other humans, I feel like the better.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you've got shorts on and they're like riding up your thigh and you're sitting next to some horny guy who's just staring down at your meat or whatever. Like, you don't want that.
How do you feel about plain clothes? Like, let's say you flew, you got to the hotel at your destination, and you're wearing the same clothes you wore on the plane. Do you immediately change out of them?
Yeah, you immediately strip out of those, throw them in a trash can, pour a little gasoline in there, pitch a match into it, burn those clothes because they're done.
But do you like? I know a lot of people, including my family members, if they go on a plane and they get to the hotel, you're not allowed. Like, maybe you can lay on top of the covers in your plain clothes, but before you get under the covers, you have to take the plain clothes off.
I would go so far as to say if you've ridden in a plane for over 30 minutes that day, you have to take a shower before you're getting in bed. Like, that's because it's fucking gross up there, dude. It is. It is. It's just recycled air for way too long.
Well, they say that they pump in fresh air. That's what they say with all the COVID stuff.
Yeah, they also say you have Wi-Fi, which is rarely the case. Even after you pay for it. Why is that a thing? It's almost like as bad as tipping when you don't know what you're tipping for, right? We've talked about how like you go to McDonald's and you literally place your order and then you come up there and get your order and you've tipped somehow in the process. Like, it doesn't make sense that you're being asked to tip when you're paying for something you haven't received yet because you don't know what the performance was that you're judging and tipping on yet.
Yep.
It's almost like that. Like, it's just it's idiotic. What were we talking about?
Plain clothes.
No, right before I started talking about McDonald's, you asked something.
You said it's recirculating air on the airplanes. That's what we talked about.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. But you better wear something comfortable on an airplane, and you better have other clothes so you can take those clothes off and set them on fire when you get off the airplane. It's not like too many people treat airplanes still like it's back in the day where everybody used to dress up,
Yeah, they're like, oh, you never know who you're gonna meet on an airplane.
put on a suit and tie, and go get on a fucking airplane? Are you out of your mind?
Well, some people still live like, oh, I want to be able to go out to a nice dinner. Like they go like
Right after?
Right after, yeah.
That's just gross, though, dude. It's not your chair you were sitting in. Why are the bathrooms so small? Why? I don't even fit in there. No one over 6 feet has ever been comfortable in an airplane bathroom. I have to bend my neck backwards because it's sloped like this. So I'm having to bend myself backwards and hold my dick straight somehow. Everybody's pissing all over the seats.
Yeah, it's like if
You're
you're
in turbulence taking a piss, it's over, man.
if you're in a public restroom, like there's a whole idea like, okay, this could have been some dude, 5 hours ago who's already home. When you piss all over the airplane seat, like I know you're here.
You're on the plane somewhere, and I'm going to find you, piss on you.
It's just like, dude, how can you do that when you know people are like, especially if you walk out and somebody follows you in, it's like, what the heck?
It's sociopathic shit.
I never understand people who pee on the toilet seat.
I really don't. This is
If you're drunk,
a dude problem.
I get it. If you're drunk, I get it.
But even so, if you're drunk, wipe it off. You're drunk.
No,
You don't care about germs.
I don't forgive you if you're drunk, but I get it.
I get it no matter what. The dick and pee is a harder control thing than people realize. Like, there are a lot of factors that go into this. Have you recently had sex or masturbated? Your piss is coming out in 2 streams in 3 different directions. It's hard to control. Pissing on the seat isn't the problem. It's failing to clean it at all. You animalistic fucks. It's the same thing with the urinal. Pissing all over the floor in there. It's just like, what are you doing? That I don't get still.
You're pissing on the
There's
floor.
enough target space here, but the splashback thing is an issue. It's just, it's.
Yeah, who designed the urinal? There's so much splashback.
Do you think a day and a time comes where men are required to sit to pee, like by law, so that we can avoid the spread of pee in the way that we are currently dealing with
If
it?
there's like a pee COVID.
It's completely out of control. It really is. It's completely out of control. Hey, I've got a shout out here. Happy birthday to Jacob back on July 29th. You have a solid girlfriend. Congratulations and happy birthday. Make sure you follow us on social media at the Ross Bolen Podcast on TikTok and Instagram. We are at Ross Bolen Pod on Twitter. Follow Jared at Jared Borslow. If you're an F1 fan, listen to the Formula Bone F1 show wherever you listen to the Ross Bolen Podcast. As we mentioned earlier, Oysters, Clams, and Cockles returning August 21st for House of the Dragon coverage. And if you're watching Westworld on HBO, Freeze All Motor Functions is the podcast for you. That'll do it for today's show. I'm Ross at WR Bolen on Twitter and Instagram. I will be back later this week. Jared is going to be out. He's getting on a jet plane. Don't know when he'll be back again.
In my joggers. Gotta have pants.
Yep. And then, of course, Friday on patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast, where our most recent episode was an all-time 2.5-hour recording with our legal counsel and one of my best friends, Brandon Rankin, on patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast. As I have been saying all summer long, if you are not on Patreon, you are missing half of the episodes that this show puts out each week right now. So, patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast. Support our sponsors, obviously. MeUndies.com/RBP to get 15% off your first order. MyBookie.ag, code RBP to get that deposit bonus when you deposit, and birddogs.com, code Ross for a free Bird Dogs gift with your order. Really means a lot for y'all to support our sponsors. That's how we get repeat business and make money as a company. Appreciate you. Thank you. Until next time, peace be with you and also with you.